The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. The fastest hour in American media. And, of course, there is no lack of news. There never is. The fire hose of news continues to gush throughout America. As we wrapped up our program on Saturday morning, we got word of a shooting in Minnesota. 2 separate shootings, actually. And that has captivated, in some ways, news coverage over the weekend. Today, last night, there was a break in the case. The alleged assassin of Minnesota Speaker Melissa Hortman and others was captured. We have a report from that. There was also a lot of speculation as to what the motives were. Very early on in the case, it appeared that there might be some tie-in to votes that were taken concerning illegal immigration that the left in America doesn't like. So speculation began that perhaps this was a leftist shooter. Later, as the days started to pass and more information about the shooter emerged, it turned out that this shooter, who had been appointed by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to serve the state in 2 different functions, 2 different times, it turned out that that information appeared to be correct. New York Post was the first place that I read where the shooter was identified as a Republican. Then videos started emerging of his talks in Africa and other places. Turns out then that the left went on a rampage, assuming that this was a right-winger, et cetera, et cetera. There was talk about a manifesto all weekend. A manifesto had been found along with the No Kings rally flyers in the man's car. That fueled a lot of speculation. This is going to take a bit to sort out. Even though he's captured, there is a lot of information that might appear to be contradictory to some. For instance, this business with the manifesto. There was a presser today. U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson from Minnesota was questioned by reporters. Carlos, that's cut 4 rather than me explain what's in it. Let's just join that part of the presser by recorded file. Here it is.
Came from initially.
Can you identify the potential motive here? It has been widely reported that the list, this hit list, contained names of people who are abortion rights supporters. And also, can you please release the names of the 2 other targeted victims who were fortunate to get away?
As I said, with respect to the other 2 potential victims, I think it's up to them whether they want to publicly identify themselves. As I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they do. They're elected officials, but that's their right. Obviously, they may have families and children and privacy interests that they need to sort through. So I'll let them do that. With respect to the potential motive, let me say this. There's been a lot of press coverage and speculation and discussion of a manifesto. I've seen nothing like a Unabomber-style manifesto in his writings. He had many, many notebooks full of plans, lists of names, surveillance, efforts that he took to surveil and locate the home addresses and family members' relationships with these elected officials. But I have not seen anything involving some sort of political screed or manifesto that would clearly identify what motivated him. Obviously, his primary motive was to go out and murder people. Now, they were all elected officials. They were all Democrats. Beyond that, I think it's just way too speculative for anyone who has reviewed these materials to know and to say what was motivating him in terms of ideology or specific issues. There's a lot of...
For abortion rights supporters?
There were some abortion rights supporters, I believe, on the list. But again, there was dozens and dozens and dozens of names on, hundreds of pages of documents that were recovered with his writings on them.
Did he confess and give more details after he was apprehended last night?
I'm not going to comment on that at this time.
So we don't know whether he's confessed, whether they have more details. What we do know is whatever the talk that is going on about his intentions and so forth, it may be still too early to draw conclusions, firm conclusions from it. We have other pieces of audio. Bill de Blasio, one, seeming to blame Donald Trump. Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon. Now, Oregon in particular, I'm going to think we'll just do this one right now. Cut 9, Carlos. This guy, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, is, to me, one of the most egregious statements, and I'll explain why after you listen to it.
There was a state representative, Democratic leader of the state legislature in Minnesota killed over the weekend, a state senator shot. How would you describe the current political atmosphere in this country this morning?
I feel like Trump has really popped the lid off the rhetoric and the sense of hate and violence and promoted this type of an environment. It's profoundly disturbing for all of us. We have seen increased threats across the country. You're probably familiar with the pizza threats. We've seen more of that where pizzas or other food is delivered to people's families that they haven't ordered, just to say from the right wing, we know who you are, we know where you live. I can tell you all of our families feel a greatly heightened sense. And just let me just say, my heart goes out to the families in Minnesota. How horrific for the whole country, but particularly we're holding the folks in Minnesota in our hearts.
Yeah, no place in this country for political violence of any kind.
Except in Portland, Oregon, where this senator supposedly represents. What happened in Portland, Oregon over the weekend is a national disgrace. You had Antifa out on the streets. They tried to breach the ICE center in Portland, Oregon. They tried to set it on fire. They repeatedly tried to not only burn the place down. At one point, they were launching what appeared to be fireworks at it. It could be other explosive device. They were openly rioting the streets. These people were beating down people that they considered to be their enemies throughout. Antifa has been doing this in 2 cities in America, unchecked, apparently, for years. When I say unchecked, yeah, you see some minor police activity, but nowhere near to stop it. These thugs seem to operate freely in Portland, Oregon, and in Seattle with impunity, Seattle, Washington. Portland is a city that is devastated. In the aftermath of the the BLM riots, George Floyd, all of that business, they burned that city. The arsons were crazy. The violence, crazy. It continues to this day. It continued to this weekend. And here you have this guy talking about judges and others facing threats because they get pizzas in the mail, while you have people literally trying to kill and trying to destroy federal buildings in his state. He never mentions it. None of the Democrats ever mention it. He talks about Trump, blaming Trump on the violence. These leftists in Oregon have been committing violence for years. And this hypocrite, that it is, let me, rather than call him a hypocrite, say it is hypocritical of this senator to sit down and whine and talk about violence when nobody on the left will talk about these domestic terrorists that run freely in Oregon, that run freely in Seattle, that show up in almost every city now. They are a highly organized group of anarchists, domestic terrorists. Not a word. But he's going to sit here on CNN and whine about pizza that's delivered and presume to know who's sending the pizza? And Carlos, you look and say, this is what's been going on. There have been some federal judges and other judges who have pizzas sent to their house. They didn't order the pizzas. And this has, quote unquote, been a cause for alarm. There have been stories written about it in all of the mainstream outlets. These pizzas are threatening, these deliveries, because the message apparently is that, as he said, we know where you live. Yes.
Pizza from where?
From local pizza shops. Somebody's calling local pizza shops in the area, sending pizza deliveries to these judges' houses. And yeah, it's wrong. Whoever's doing it, it's wrong. But it pales in comparison to the actual violence that Antifa and other left-wing terrorist groups have been fomenting and have been actively participating in this country, including Donald Trump's first inauguration in Washington, D.C. They were out vandalizing and committing arson there. And this group is still running around. Every time you see these videos of them actively engaging, in some cases, with law officials, fighting them. And always in Portland or in Seattle, where these videos come from, law enforcement seems to be overwhelmed by these people. And I don't understand for the life of me why they don't have a 4,000 force strong to take every one of these terrorists in jail and keep them there for years. But it never seems to happen. And you never hear anything about it from any of these Democrats like Jeff Merkley or Bill de Blasio, who was out. Now, we will play some of the other stuff we have a chance from this horrid situation that happened in Minnesota. Let me be very clear about it. I don't care whether this guy is right-wing, left-wing, what he did, he deserves the federal death penalty. That's what happens. What he did. These political assassinations must stop. And whatever means to stop them needs to be done. There's nobody on the right side that's going to say this is okay, this is right, unlike what you're hearing from the left. The left, as we go into the break, I'll tell you what, Carlos, why don't we just play one of the people who was at the No Kings, and her reaction after visiting No Kings, cut 14, and then after that, Carlos, let's just head right to the break. But here we go.
Hey, Donald Hussein Trump. I just got back from a big party we had. A couple of us got together, about 50,000 or so, in the greatest city in the world to talk about how much we hate you. And we had fun doing it. Kind of running down the list of reasons we hate you. We couldn't decide on just one, you know? Ugly, stupid, fascist, dictator, power hungry, money hungry. Pick a struggle. But it was nice to get together on your birthday and talk about what a piece of you are, and how soon you will be dead, and we will all dance upon your grave and teach our children to do the same. So now I'm just home, and I'm enjoying this really delicious piece of cheesecake that would frankly kill you if you had even one bite of it. And I'm hanging out with my cats. No kids. No man. Feeling pretty good. So I just wanted to say thank you. Sorry it rained on your little tank parade, but I had a great time.
Rhetoric from the left. We could play these all day long. James Golden, Snerdley, coming back. Fastest hour in American media continues.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Meta AI is the personal AI that's tailored to you, now with its very own app. It's built to get to know you, offering helpful answers and inspiration. Looking for something to add to your bucket list? Meta AI goes beyond traveling the world. It remembers you're a basketball fanatic and suggests you attend one of the playoff games. Just start typing or speaking to get the answers you need, wherever and whenever, because Meta AI is your personal AI. Download the Meta AI app, now available on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
But we start with Alex Rozier. He is live in downtown L.A. where that protester was hit by a car. Alex.
Kathy and Carolyn, that 20-year-old protester was hit by a car after they were blocking traffic near Pershing Square. The violent hit and run was captured on camera. New video shows the scene at 5th and Hill around 7:30 tonight when a protester was run over by the driver in this red Toyota.
They hit someone. They ran over her leg.
Protesters said they were blocking the intersection when the woman was hit. After the crash, the driver took off. Minutes later, paramedics rushed the injured protester to the hospital.
She's thankfully safe, but this is what's kind of going on.
Yeah, you can't, when you the video, folks. A bunch of them swarm this car. This woman stands in front of a car just trying to go about his business. The car did what cars do. It drove. And then she toppled back under the car, and sadly, one of her legs got run over. Standing in front of a car, moving car to block it so that other protesters can swarm it. Lucky for that, well, she wasn't in Florida because we already know what will happen. Anyway, James Golden and Snerdley. Yeah, thank you. The Mets. On Flag Day, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Mets played the national anthem. While they were playing the national anthem, the New York Mets did not show on their Jumbotron the American flag. Instead, the New York Mets put up a pride flag during the Star-Spangled Banner on Flag Day, the day when Americans celebrate Old Glory, our flag. The New York Mets decided the pride flag was appropriate for Flag Day instead of the American flag. And then there are the Dodgers. That's another story. Their singer sang the national anthem in Spanish as protest. We're coming back. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My husband and my son, my 7-year-old son, just walked out the door to go to a No Kings protest. And I'm staying home because my other son does not feel well. And as they were walking out the door, I said, "Thank you for being so brave and going and doing this." And my son looked at me and said, "Will it change things?" And I said, "I hope so, buddy. I hope so."
James Golden and Snerdley with you, fastest hour in American media. Now, before we got to the break, I also mentioned, aside from the New York Mets with their horrific middle finger to the United States of America, and that's what it was, the Mets put up their collective, the New York Mets, from Citi Field, put up their collective middle finger to the United States of America on Flag Day and just pretty much said, blank you. This is what we care about. Screw your American flag. This is the flag that we care to honor on Flag Day. This decision, I don't know who made it, but somebody in the New York Mets office, apparently a bunch or somebody's, decided that giving America the middle finger on Flag Day was an appropriate thing to do. Out on the left coast of America, Neza, Vanessa Hernandez, more commonly known as Nessa, sang the official Spanish version of the Star-Spangled Banner, commissioned by Democrat President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1945, but nonetheless, she posted a video on TikTok to make sure that we all knew the backstory, and the backstory was the Dodger employee is telling her, listen, we're going to do the song in English today. I'm not sure if that wasn't relayed to you. Was it relayed to making sure she understood that the request from the New York Dodgers, having invited her to sing the Star-Spangled Banner, was to sing it in English, but she decided that she was going to put on a Dominican Republic shirt to sing the Spanish version. And that's what she did. I just felt like I needed to do it, she said. Especially because we're in L.A. with everything happening. I've sang the national anthem many times in life, but today of all days, I couldn't sing your stinky American version of the national anthem, which is what she's telling us. Another middle finger to the people of America. Again, on Flag Day in the United States of America. Now, I mentioned this before the break and got an instant reaction. Carlos?
How are we doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you this afternoon, Carlos?
I'm doing great, actually. Actually, no. I was great, but now it's raining today again. But I'm guessing you're not referencing to that.
No, I'm not talking about the rain, Carlos.
Okay. I mean, baseball is not my sport, but I know Vanessa as an artist, and I think people make mistakes, but she's still pretty cute, to be honest.
So let's focus on what's important here.
If she turns out to be another Rachel Zegler, the Snow White actress, yeah, I'm gonna retract that statement. But for now, I'm gonna stick with the cute part.
It's cool because she's pretty cute.
Oh, no, that's not what I said. Don't twist my words. I don't want ICE knocking on my door. No.
Feminists love you today, Carlos.
No, I just
Let me just understand. Let me just
might be able to forgive. Might, because she's cute.
Because she's cute. So she gets a pass on this because she's cute. Okay. Thank you, Carlos.
Anytime.
I appreciate it, Carlos. Okay. She's cute. All right, let's visit Tim Walz, shall we? Let's go back to Minneapolis, where we started the program from. The governor of Minnesota had this to say at a presser after Vance Bolter was arrested. And last night, this is the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
A moment in this country where we watch violence erupt. This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country. And each and every one of us can do it. Talk to a neighbor rather than arguing. Debate an issue. Shake hands. Find common ground. This is who Melissa Hortman was. In the first negotiating session that I had a chance to work with her, she got all the partners in the room, and she provided each and every one of us a copy of a book called Getting to Yes. And the whole premise was debating with a sense of goodwill, a sense of trying to come to compromises that serve everyone. And because of her, we did that. Because of her, we did that year after year after year. That's the embodiment of how things are supposed to work. It's not about hatred. It's not about mean tweets. It's not about demeaning someone. It's leading with grace and compassion and vision and compromise and decency. That was taken from us in Minnesota with the murder of Speaker Hortman. So for each and every one of us to truly honor, and we will continue to honor that spirit, but we will need to do it in just more than actions in a memorial. Conducting ourselves in the spirit that Melissa Hortman did her work is what the country needs to heal.
Okay. And may I remind you, since he pointed to this is who Melissa Hortman was, may I just briefly remind you of who Tim Walz is?
What happened in Minnesota is horrific. This is not right. It is not normal. It is not justifiable. And should not
that's the
be
same one.
Tolerated. Violence, political violence of any
it's not.
kind is not acceptable.
You're right. You're right. Keep playing it.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared. To be clear, there's no way for us to know whether they were actually criminals or not. It's not hyperbole to say we're not far from a world where anyone could get that knock at a door. And there's no guarantee you'd get your day in court or that you'd ever make it home alive from whatever corner of the world they stick you in. Now, if Trump and his folks want to come for Minnesotans, we need to make sure that there's a firewall that they have to come through before they get to them.
Yeah, that's Peace and Love, Minnesota's Tim Walz. That's who Tim Walz is. And those are just some of the statements that he has made recently. So now you were starting to play Cory Booker. Senator Cory Booker.
Spartacus.
And we're going to listen to the whole thing. Senator Cory Booker, Spartacus, had some remarks as well. And I have to just be honest about something. Let's listen to Cory Booker, Spartacus, and his reaction to what happened in Minnesota.
What happened in Minnesota is horrific. This is not right. It is not normal. It is not justifiable and should not be tolerated. Violence, political violence of any kind is not acceptable. And the context and rhetoric and actions that spawn violence too should not be tolerated. Assassinations and assassination attempt, murders and a murder attempt. And all of us should be grieving in this moment and sending our heart and our love to that whole community, and especially to the individuals and families affected. But dear God, we've got to look at the context in which this has happened. We are dealing with a context in our country right now that is leading us where more and more of these events happen, and it is unacceptable. We must demand more from each other, and we must do more to end what seems to be more and more a pattern in our country that undermines everything we say we are and must be to one another.
Well, that's Spartacus. Cory Booker, after, of course, these tragic events in Minnesota. Now, I have to be honest, folks. As soon as I heard Spartacus saying what he said, I said, well, okay, that's well and good now. Peace, love, and happiness. Peace, love, and sorrow in this case. But I wonder where Cory Booker was after the assassination attempts of Donald J. Trump. Because there were a lot of Democrats that didn't say a word about it. A lot of them. I said, you know what? I'm going to go look and see if Spartacus said anything after the first assassination attempt on President Donald Trump's life. And you know what? He actually did. And this is what he said.
What is patriotism if not love of country? And you cannot love your country unless you love your countrymen and women. We don't have to agree with each other all the time, and we don't have to like each other all the time. But love says, I see you. I see your worth. I see your dignity. We are in an election season now, and the rhetoric is already getting outrageous. We weren't designed as a nation for one political party to completely thwart and end the other. I know as an American who happens to be a Democrat that the 70+ million people who voted for Donald Trump are not my enemy. They belong to me. We belong to each other. We need each other.
Well, I report, you decide. Bill de Blasio was on PMSNBC, and it's de Blasio. I mean, what do you expect from Bill de Blasio? This is de Blasio.
Does seem to have skyrocketed. What do you think it would take to de-escalate, to get whether it's politicians or media outlets that benefit from the escalation, from increasing conflict, to cool the temperatures?
Catherine, it's a powerful question. I think the first thing we have to think about, quick context. I mean, this is very troubling, but if you compare it to the USA in 1968, when we had assassinations of some of the most important figures in our society, and we had constant conflict and violence in cities all over the country, we're in a bad place, but we've been to a much worse place. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. I think the first thing we need to do is have our leaders take the temperature down. We're not expecting to see that from President Trump. Unfortunately, he has more than anyone given the permission structure for this reality. And even what we've seen in the last week in Los Angeles.
I don't even want to hear this guy blather on anymore, because this is his take. You know who is given the permission for lawlessness in blue cities? People like Bill de Blasio. And by the way, where are the billions of dollars that were spent for de Blasio that were never accounted for? Some spent with the wife, supposedly helping to redo social services program. Money's unaccounted for, and no one seems to care about those billions of dollars that disappeared during the de Blasio years. Less talk, more action. Switching gears. Donald Trump G7 meeting today up in Canada. Let me just say, after this, Mark Carney up in Canada politely shut the questions and answers down to Donald Trump. So we gotta get to a we gotta get to a meeting. This was Trump, number one.
I look forward to that. The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot.
Yeah. It wasn't too long after that before Prime Minister Carter said, okay, that's enough questions. We got to get to work here. We don't want any more questions. Amazing. Anyway, James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Fastest hour in American media continues. Whatever you do, keep it right here.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Some guys aren't willing to date trans girls, but I just don't understand why. Can you even give me one good reason why someone wouldn't like trans girls?
I shot me in the nuts, and now I'm losing a ball. Surgery is tomorrow. But you know who else only had one ball? Tupac and Hit.
Yeah, today is the heavenly birthday of One Pac. Tupac, until that thing happened and he became One Pac. American rapper actor Tupac Amaru Shakur. Do you know his real name by any chance, Carlos? His real name was Lassane Parish Crooks. Crooks. Do you know who his aunt is? Joanne Chesimard. Look her up. American terrorist who left here to go to Cuba, and she's been in Cuba ever since. Oh yeah, there's a history there. I don't have time to get into it all. Anyway, birthday for One Pac today. Happy birthday, I suppose. Yes, my friends. You know who else had a great day in music? Bob Dylan, 1965. This is one of Bob Dylan's biggest hits ever. This was the day that he went over to Columbia Recording Studios in Manhattan and did this. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your family, your loved one. God willing, we're back tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Until, my friends, until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder, what the heck is going on here?
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.